Welcome, everybody, to the Nonprofit Edge, where you can lead, grow, and adapt to the wonderful world of the nonprofits. And this is all about helping you navigate through the complexity and the challenges of today. And if you are returning, welcome back. And if you are here for the first time, this is all about bringing you strategies, insights, tips, tools, and resources to help you navigate this new world. And of course, we are here for episode 4. We can't believe this is flying by. I'm Maureen Gage Edwards. I'm your moderator today, and the amazing host is here who's going to bring all of the information to you to help you work through this. And I'm so excited to be sharing the stage with Joe John, the CEO of John Consulting. Hey, Joe, how are you today?
Hey, how are you, Maureen? Hi, everybody. It's good to see you, everyone.
It's great to see you, too. Can you believe we're at episode 4 already?
I know.
Unbelievable. And this is actually one of my favorite topics because I totally believe in websites. I think it's one of the strongest marketing tools any industry can have, but they are evolving at such a fast pace, especially with the world of AI and this new digital revolution. And I think we need to approach them a little bit differently. So our topic today is websites that work, turning your nonprofit site into more of a growth engine, and how we're going to perceive this, how your visitors are going to be engaging with it, but also how you are going to be interacting with it. So we have a ton of information to get to. You have put together some incredible insights and strategies. So you want to talk about number 1, which I have when we're looking at nonprofits today. What do you see are some of the gaps between a strong growth engine and one that is not working at the capacity it should be in today's landscape?
Okay, well, thanks for that question. I want to mention that, implementing website designs is something I've been doing for 24 years, up until Andrew was hired. Now he does that for me, but I've just been one of those technicians that just kind of learned HTML and CSS early on. So I've implemented, hundreds of website designs over the past 20 plus years, or at least 100. So it's really, this is an area of expertise that I have, I think, that hopefully people can get some good insights from. But I think, just running down the list, of like website gaps that maybe a lot of organizations aren't looking at is obviously mobile optimization. And I think a lot of organizations are getting on board with it, but it's very important that your website is responsive. So that way, not just responsive down, you want to make sure it's responsive and effective all the way down to 250 pixels wide, you really need to routinely, make sure your website looks great all the way down to 250 pixels, all the way up to 1920 and everywhere in between. And so, it's also important, from that aspect is that people who are producing content, a lot of times you could have an optimized mobile website, but then somebody throws in a table that's hard coded to a 1200 pixels wide. And now you got this, you can't even see 75% of it on a mobile screen. So you got to make sure not only is the website template responsive, but those who are creating content are using like Bootstrap 5 HTML that, automatically will size correctly. Really that's like number 1. You got to make sure more than half of nonprofit website users are using mobile. So you need to be really focused on that. The other is you want to make sure your website is optimized for search engine optimization as well as AI. And a lot of organizations don't realize this. And if you're an iMIS user, you can enter this directly. It's very easy to do, but every single web page should have an appropriate meta description. Meta description is the summary of what shows up in the search engines. And it's also that takes priority over the actual content as far as what it shows up in a search.
Mhm.
And AI is a great tool to write these, because you got to make sure if they're longer than I think 160 is the max character. If they're too long, it gets truncated. Your message is truncated, and then I think you get dinged if you're not the right size. So I think 120 to 158 characters, and you can use AI. You could actually, it's real easy. Say, hey AI, for this web page, write me an AI, a meta description. It'll make sure it's the right length, and they're used. That's a great tool to have to create those. The other thing is you want to make sure you have a meta image. So the latest version of iMIS EMS allows you to enter a meta image for every piece of content. That's important because that's what's going to show up by default when you do social media sharing. When somebody shares your web page on their LinkedIn,
Mhm.
Facebook, that is the image that shows up. If you don't put a meta image in there, some random image is going to show up. It's not going to look right, and so I think that's another thing. Another thing that a lot of organizations need to be aware of, especially nonprofits, is making sure that it's got good accessibility. And so there's the Web Content Accessibility Standards, WCAS, and you can go online and look those up. But fundamentally, the main things that you're going to see is every image that you need to have a description. Every link that you have needs to have a description, so those who are disabled can have the website read and it makes sense to them. And this is like low hanging fruit that you need to address. Also, to unclear user experiences, make sure you've got impactful stories. Make sure your mission isn't buried. Make sure there's a call to action out there. If your navigation, the old days, people would have everything in their navigation. Now navigation should be more simplified. With modern websites, you have a more simplified navigation. You've got landing hubs, and those landing hubs automatically dynamically pull the latest and greatest based on those areas. So you don't have to have hundreds of different links pointing to every single page that you have. So just, things like along those lines. Of course, high quality branding is important. I think organizations that really do well in this space will look at rebranding their website every 5 years or so. You could have a very nice, great website, but from 2012, the content's going to be too narrow. The fonts are going to be, Times New Roman, and people are going to look at it and say, okay, this is a dated website. So just make sure you do that. And then the last thing I want to mention for this is make sure you're leveraging technology. You want to make sure you leveraging the greatest and the latest and greatest technology that will really give you real-time insights. Because if your engagement's really one of the most important things for nonprofits, and your website is the best place to measure that engagement. So, yeah.
Wow, there is so much. I would love to recap all of that, but what I'm really hearing is that the behind the scenes part of the website is so critical that you really have to have that nailed down, which can collect the metrics. You need to have your metadata in place, your alt text in place, those keywords that the search engines can pick up so that they can find you. I mean, if you're not findable, people aren't going to be able to work with you or to increase membership, learn more about you. I mean, that's really what it is all about. But I really like how you're talking about, the images. Don't forget about your images and explaining them to people who, have disabilities. I think that's something people do not think about at all.
Well, you know what else I wanted to add? I've forgotten. Troy at ASI, he teaches a class on this, but you also want to optimize your images too. A lot of organizations will upload a 10 megabyte image that the human eye can't even detect the difference between that same image at 30 kilobytes versus 10 megabytes. So you want to make sure your images aren't like, what your designer gives you is something you could put on a huge wall and it looks great. You got to make sure you optimize it for the web so your pages aren't loading too slow. So image optimization is important too. Yeah.
More people will bounce off a website because it is too slow. You will lose visitors. That's like the number one reason.
Yeah, and I heard the SEO too. So I think Troy, if you tab iMIS, Troy teaches a course on this. It's very useful. And we've got our guidelines that we use as well with our designer. Yeah.
Great advice right off the bat. we're only getting started. So
Yeah, I know.
you mentioned AI. I mean,
Mhm.
what you said is you can't just create something, set it, forget it. 2012, even 2020, even like last year, AI is moving at record pace.
Yeah.
And so, we look at AI 3 to 5 years ago, it's just not the same. The evolution's moving. So with this AI driven world, where do you think the nonprofit website is going to be headed? Because they're gonna, what you just gave is great, but where do you think it's going to be moving, and how are they going to have to keep evolving with this besides what you had just mentioned? Where are we going with
Yeah.
this?
So, in this modern, there's really the last two really big technical revolutions is the one was digital transformation. Everybody remembers that, that was the big thing. It still is, obviously. And then, of course, AI. So really the job of a website has changed. It's not just a static brochure like it was back in the
Mm-hmm.
day. And I think with modern tools like iMIS EMS, you got a lot of tools that can really give you a modern website, but you got to know how to use them. And so I think the main at a high level, without getting too in the weeds, I think delivering personalized information. So you have the ability to really give people a personalized experience. Once they're authenticated, who they are. You can deliver a very personalized experience, personalized self-service, personalized navigation structure. It's all based off of their record, their interests. So I think that's kind of low hanging fruit that a lot of organizations can if you define what you want to do, it's pretty easy to implement. I think also too modern websites, in order, iMIS is your single source of truth. So, but iMIS is not going to do everything that your organization needs. So, for example, if you have a learning management system like Top Class, or you've got a community platform like Higher Logic, if you're doing virtual meetings through Zoom, you've got maybe a third-party marketing, MailChimp or something like that. You need to make sure that all of those systems are tied in with your main system, and that the information is when the single sign-on, the data is flowing out to those systems to keep them up to date with the latest information in iMIS, and then when they complete courses and things like that, or when they receive emails, that data is written back to iMIS and activities. So really, like using your primary website as your hub to pull in all and seamlessly integrating all of your different websites that make your business function. And I think a lot of organizations, the website is your primary relationship engine. It's your trust
Mm-hmm.
hub. It's kind of the center of your business in a lot of ways in today's world. So I think it's very important that you put the time and resources into making sure that it not only represents you, but that delivers a lot of the benefits and features that members pay for, that sponsors pay for, are based on the quality of your website. So yeah, that's.
I like what you said. It's not like this static brochure where people are just coming to get information, because AI is giving them information now. So when they're
Mhm.
coming to you, they want to engage more. They want something different. They want to interact. They need to get more out of that website, which means the nonprofit needs to get more out of that website behind the scenes, so they know
Mhm.
how this engagement, these metrics can drive their creative, can serve their members, their exhibitors, their sponsors, partners, better, right? So the whole website has changed. And you mentioned iMIS because everything's got to seamlessly integrate with each other.
Mhm.
And engagement is the name of the game, and engaging with those members, driving more membership. So tell me a little bit about iMIS and working to attract, to convert, to retain. How can they work together, and what would be like practical steps that they can go ahead and do, and just tweaks, maybe just simple improvements to start right now?
Okay, well, I guess I did talk about this, but a little bit already, and but I think there's some low hanging fruit. So organizations should really take advantage of the low hanging fruit to make the least amount of effort to get the most benefit. But I think making sure your metadata is set and making sure your website's accessible. There are free third-party tools you can go to. You can plug your website in, and then it'll tell you, hey, this is look at all these issues that you have. You got all this missing metadata. You got all these missing. And so I think the first step is so your website, you've got a header and you have a footer, and that header and footer shows up on every single page. So first step, make sure your header and footer, every link, every image has a description. Make sure all your main pages, everything has a meta description. Just kind of do that. That's low hanging fruit that you can do relatively quickly. It's all easy to do through the front end. Help.imis.com can tell you how to do it, or your service provider. So I think that's a first step. I also think that you should really, a lot of organizations probably already have their constituents defined. They know who their main constituents are, but then you want to think about what they call funneling. So when people come to your website and you've got three main types of constituents, think of creating a funnel for each of those three. So that way, this is me, and they identify and they go there, and that sends them down. It funnels them into a path where they find information that's interesting to them. So I think funneling to your main, most organizations have between 3 and 5 major targets of users, and so user funneling. And I think that you should rapidly roll out self-service features. It's very easy in iMIS and a modern EMS system to define, survey your constituents, survey your staff, your Gen Z employees, what information, do we want to gather with these folks? And then, give them a good little engagement score to say, hey, your score is low. You want to improve your engagement score? Come here and give us this information. Give them little treats. But you can also too. It's very easy now. It used to require customizations, but in the modern system, totally out of the box, you can define different self-service portals for different types of users. So that way, your advertiser has their different information, your member versus your, volunteers. You can build as many your different class of memberships have different information. You can allow company administrators to update their organizational record. So, really, think it through, plan it out, make sure you define all the data you want, and then just build out these different customized self-service interfaces. I think that's really good. And then I think make sure that you've got really good metrics, that you've got really good analytics. And our product Click Tracker speaks to that, where you can really tag different sections of the website. You can basically say, hey, this is an area that our staff person would really like to know who's clicking the join page. And then exactly who's doing it. Now they're a hot lead. These people have been clicking our join page, and maybe we should set up a process to send them an automated email. You can also obviously advertise your sponsors. They want to know who's clicking their stuff, and they can go at it real time and say, okay, this person and their email address and their interests and their age and whatever information you want to share with them, it's available. And then of course, members want to know, a big part of a lot of societies, especially is that high profile member directory. Somebody's looking for an expert in this field. That directory is very important to them. They want to know who's clicking our page. And this is all recorded in iMIS, and you can share it directly with your constituents. And then you can also use it to measure engagement. People that are clicking around are measuring engagement. So I think those are some high level.
Very high level. And
Yeah.
I have a question, because iMIS
Sure.
is really the gold standard
Yeah.
for nonprofits, and it does so much from just end to end. Do you really, in your professional opinion, because there are so many features, so many benefits, that nonprofits really are maximizing these? They're really capitalizing on all of these and really understand everything they can do with it. Do you think that they are using it at the level that they can see these type of results?
I mean, it varies. I think some organizations are leveraging it pretty well, and many aren't. I think I don't know if there's a one organization that's really using all of the features, but I think it varies. I think some organizations, I always, National Academy of Elder Law Attorneys with Ann Watkins, and Transportation Intermediaries Association with Paul Leahy. I mean, they're doing a lot with the products with iMIS, and they're doing a lot of things right. But are they using everything? I mean, I don't think anyone's using all the features. But yeah, I mean, having a good partner who's got very experience and has experience working with lots of different organizations, who you can meet with to kind of bounce your ideas off of, and let them kind of tell you, okay, well, you want to do this, well, this is how you do it. And because the system is so flexible that what would require a custom developer now you can do out of the box. So we offer customer care calls with folks.
Yes.
And that way, if you got some ideas, you got some initiatives, and you want to talk to some experienced consultants, we'll talk to you for free. And if you're happy with your reseller, stay with them. But if you're looking for, you're taking a look what's out there, I mean, we're always happy to talk to clients and just give them some free advice. Yeah.
And give them an introduction on things that they are maybe not aware of, and how they can leverage it and get unbelievable ROI. So I think that's great. And I think we're going to make it our mission at John Consulting to take it to the next level and get the word out here, because there are just too many ways that nonprofits can just thrive with this and grow their organization. So people have really limited budgets in nonprofits. I think it's across the board, whatever organization you're in today. So if they have a limited budget and trying to get their website totally redone in this new climate, what can they do in order to personalize the experience, capture better data, maybe start the process that's a little bit budget friendly? Can you offer any advice on that?
Well, yeah, I think so. I think AI is coming. I'm actually looking at two products right now that we're thinking about partnering with. That and these AI tools are not that expensive. I think most organizations can afford them. The thing is, though, is AI needs good data to be trained on it. So I think on the lead up to implementing, as you're looking at your different AI solutions, you want to make sure that you're gathering that you've got the data that you want to train AI on. So there are standard data fields in iMIS. But I think you want to make sure that you're collecting all the information that's relevant. That because AI has to look at something in order for it to be valuable.
Yeah.
So the technical term they use is data lake. So you want to make sure you got a nice data lake, so that AI has a lot of data to drink. I think you want to start looking at different AI tools.
Yeah.
I think you've got AI tools that are work with, you can kind of train AI chatbots on specific data queries or content. And then that chatbot becomes like a personal assistant that's an expert on what you train it on. And then there's also AI tools that are coming out for iMIS that will give you the ability to kind of suggest touches. These require some consulting work to set up. So basically, you want to come up with your they call it like a storyboard, where you say, okay, a new prospect comes along, and then what do we do with that prospect? And then the next step, they become a member. Okay, they're a new member, and you want to kind of have a storyboard mapped out, a member journey, if you will. And then those can be conditional, and then you could say, okay, their engagement drops off, give them, make an offer. If engagement's high, offer them to be a higher level engage. And so you kind of think all that through. So that's something that, a lot of organizations, they know their business better than their consultants do. So the real trick is to getting that institutional knowledge, combine it with someone who's got strong technical knowledge, and the two you working together can really make your vision a reality, I know we don't have a lot of time left, so I'll just stop there.
No, it's okay. Sometimes I'm okay with, running a little bit overtime.
Okay.
So, we can still always pull snippets for people if they just want to pull a few tips, because the information is so good and so important. And
Thank
so
you.
we touched a little bit on metrics. You gave a few things out, but in today's climate, I mean, we've had so much data. We have all the Google Analytics, and sometimes those insights, people can get into the weeds. They don't really know how to put insights into action. I've always said the metrics drive the creative as a marketer. But I see a lot of people don't necessarily use data. They would rather use creativity and see what sticks. So what should they really be looking at today in order to move the needle and make smarter growth decisions, in your opinion? Can you hone in on just a few? I mean, you
Sure.
looked at engagement, you kind of thought clicks here, clicks that, but some of the key performance indicators, like what would you say, maybe 2 or 3 metrics that are really strong?
Yeah, so with iMIS EMS, it's engagement management system. So they have an engagement module, and it's an optional module, but it's not expensive. It's one of their lower cost add-ons. So I would recommend all clients get that add-on, and you can pull data from anywhere in the system to measure their engagement. But probably a large percentage of that engagement scoring comes from the website. So things like looking at how often somebody logs in, frequency of login is a good metric.
Mm.
I think you also would you would look at you want to be able to track their impressions and clicks. The thing about Google Analytics is that it's something that it kind of gives you a vague idea
Mm-hmm.
it will show you like, okay, we got so many looks from this page, from these people in this time zones, and it does give, so you get like a general sense of your traffic, but it's not going to give you like specifics like who clicked what, and if of that, who owns the content, who wants to know who clicked what, and what is that person's email, what's their phone number. Like, it's, you can't really take action. I mean, you can kind of see the effectiveness of your marketing through Google Analytics, but you can't say, okay, so
Mm-hmm.
and so did X, Y, and Z, and we can use that add to our data lake, and then also have actionable insight on how to do the next touch. So I think that's where you're kind of getting from old school to modern. I feel like you want to say something.
Yeah, I think Google, I agree with you, but I think kind of Google Analytics, especially when they went to more the new form, they switched everything around. I have found it to be very challenging to see, okay, who your bounce rate, but you don't know who really bounced, right?
Right. Yeah.
Where you could, okay, it must be my content isn't really strong enough. So let's scramble around and fix our content. But do we really know? Right?
Yeah. And Google Analytics just does impressions. It doesn't do clicks. So they have this thing called
Right.
Google Tag Manager, which you can. I actually learned it 10 years ago. And it took me a full day to figure it out. I'm a technical guy. It took me a day to figure it out and get it to work. And even
Yeah.
then, it's like a lot of manual setup. And then all you could do is you look at the domain name. So it's like, okay, well, it'll track. You can get reports based on domain names, but and then it's clunky, and then getting the data out. And again, there's no specific data. It's just a lot of manual effort, and then there's limited insight. So I think, yeah.
And
So
nobody has time. Nobody has
yeah,
time for this. And, we're
right.
talking about manpower with this. I mean, as a marketer, do you think I want to sit there and sort through all of that? I mean, yeah.
Yeah, and
So,
then it's a third party system that you can't just say, oh, let me go to Google Analytics and let me build it doesn't have all the tools like your enterprise system has, where once the data is
no.
in there, you can go, let me automate emails, let me set up an alert on their page, or you just can't do that. It's not your website, it's Google's website. So you got to manually pull down reports and manually do everything. And I mean, there's some use there, but the depth of knowledge is just not there, and it is labor intensive. Yeah.
Yeah, and really, the and that kind of leads me to the next question, where we are talking about the data already in iMIS shaping that website experience. You mentioned Click Tracker and how we're just going to have to go to that next level to create an experience for our users, but create an experience for the people behind the screen, behind the website, so that we can make better decisions for them. So my question is, what are the next steps here? How are they going to be able to iMIS shape that website experience? And I think you touched on this, but we're looking at preferences. How can it really dive deep into getting into the head, the mind of the people who land on it?
Well, that's a great question. A lot, it's, dealing with lots of different clients with lots of smart people working for them, it kind of opens your eyes of different techniques and things, ways of doing things. But like, for instance, security groups, people think in their minds, well, security group just measures what people are allowed to see. Why not make a security group to let you know what they're interested in, right? So now you got security groups that are measuring, okay, your access level, but it's also measuring interests. And then you can use those security groups to determine what sitemaps show up when they log in. So you're going to present different navigation structure based off of what their interests are. You can have different part of your different sections of your website. You can have different areas pop up for different people based on who their record is. So that's one thing. You can also use those groups to set redirect rules. So that way, okay, we got the member hub, but if you're this kind of member, this is the default member hub. But if you're this kind of member, we're going to go to this member hub. And if you're that kind of member, you go to this. You can also, based on the user's records, set up dynamic alerts. So that way, somebody is, this person is someone that has a engagement score over this. Let's offer them a seat on the board. Let's make them part of our education committee, or so you can really the alerts are things that you can set up as many as you want. It's based on the data, and these are just messages that you can pop up with actionable links and things like that, and you can put them on any page that you want. You can also do automated tasks. So you've got the advanced marketing suite. You say, okay, these people, let's send them an email, automated email. That's part of the whole member journey that you're setting up, right? Mm-hmm. You're automating all this stuff. These tools are all there. What else? Obviously you can create a lead generators. So Click Tracker kind of takes like all the tools I just mentioned are kind of standard iMIS, but then Click Tracker adds a whole other dimension, because now you're seeing what people are clicking on. You're tracking the metadata of what they're clicking on, so you know what they're interested in. The advertisers now see who's clicking our stuff, and so then you can generate actionable leads and get just even more powerful information on who to create alerts for, who to send messages to, and what different groups that they should be in to kind of tailor their whole experience, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So we're all about education with this live stream. That's why we created it. We're all about bringing you these strategies, bringing you new information, bringing you these insights. And I mean, the information you brought to the table is unbelievable. But at the end of the day, Joe, it's about implementation. And so, with a nonprofit right now, with their website over, let's say, the next 90 days, maybe even the next 30 days, what could be some of the tips that they could walk away today and maybe start to move forward with, maybe just a few that could make a difference with their iMIS platform that they're using behind the scenes? What could they implement that could give them some impact?
Well, I think if you're a nonprofit and you haven't refreshed your website in 10 years, I think you should talk to a branding expert. We've got a world-class branding expert. We have our branding expert has implemented about 35 websites in the last 2 years, 5 for us and 30 for ASI. And he's implemented hundreds of websites. So a lot of people, you can get a high quality designed website built for relatively, it's not as expensive as it used to be. Especially organizations like us that do a lot of them. So we got different package levels for every budget. So I think, get a free consultation with a branding expert. Some organizations, we've done this before, where we'll just they're not sure, they're on the fence. We'll have the branding expert kind of like meet them once or meet them twice. They meet them once to to get their insight, and then build them like a vision of a new homepage, and then deliver the one screen. How do you like this new homepage? And then that's kind of like a mini engagement that kind of count towards a full engagement. And that way they can kind of test drive and see what how their vision can be recreated. So I think, looking at branding, I think at 5 years is when you should look at it. And if your design's 10 years old, you should probably replace it. And work with a group that they specialize in that. I also think that analyze your content. We can share in the links. There are different websites that'll look at if your website is accessible and point out specific problems, and you can give different pages and it'll tell you like, oh, you need to update this link and this image, and there's no description, because people that can't see need to be able to browse your website. And that's just, especially as a nonprofit, you guys need to show that you care and you support all users, regardless of their ability. And then, make sure that, if you have someone look and, make sure you're not using 10 megabyte images on your website, slowing your website down. And it's just easy optimization like that. I think you could do an information architecture review, have a iMIS consultant do an information architecture, redesign your sitemap, make sure that you've got your content tags. Content tags are basically your categories of content, and then you can create a tag list that will automatically push the most recent information based off of how it's tagged. And that's very useful, because a lot of times organizations will use multiple tags. So you have something that's a news item, but it's also related to the conference, and it's also related to membership. Well, guess what? You tag it all three ways, and then now it shows up three different places on your website. It shows up on your member hub. It shows up on your conference hub. You see what I'm saying? So it's kind of a force multiplier. And then, and then make sure you've got, we talked about metadata. With iMIS, you can create your own metadata. You can come up with your own, author, category, memo number, like whatever specific to your organization that you want to show as a metadata about the content. It'll show up in your tag list. You can do that. You can add images, whatever resource that you want. And then you set up your content folders. So you make sure that like everything is pre-tagged. So then you have your folder structure set up, and they're all pre-tagged and tagged for security and tags. Then your users just drop stuff in the right bucket. It automatically shows up in the right place, formatted perfectly. So you don't have a content person. All those main hub pages are all dynamic. They're either pulling from the database through IQAs, or they're pulling from the tagging system that you've set up. So these are things that a lot of organizations are not really doing. And these are things that the system is designed to do. You just need to talk to an expert who can help you kind of turn your vision into reality. What else? Make sure you've got your automated alerts. And then knowing how to use alerts is great, because then, hey, something came up. We've got this disaster or some sort of push that we need to get the word out. Create an alert. Now everybody who logs in will see it on their profile page. So understanding how the alerts work and how the automated tasks work is great. And then, think about how you want to grow your data lake for AI. Make sure that you have all of these self-service data fields pushed out there, that you make sure that you've got different profiles for different types of users. All these things are things that you can set up and automate yourself. So, and then start taking a look at some AI options. We're looking at partnering. We got two AI, a fellow reseller in the space, and we're looking at two products, and we're looking at partnering with them. And we'll talk more about that once that happens. But yeah, start looking at different AI platforms.
So can I add one more?
Sure.
So you mentioned Click Tracker a lot.
Yeah.
And that works in real time, works, in iMIS. And is this something too that you feel they could go ahead and implement very easily? They can talk with us. This is something that works in iMIS already. We talked about, such a smart product behind the scenes, knowing everything they clicked on, from a sponsor to an exhibitor to a member to a partner, knowing every move they make, even if they haven't even logged in across every website. I mean, this is data they've never had before. So the magnitude of this is something they can simply today contact us, get a free demo. We have one available. They can sign up, go to johnconsulting.net and sign up for a free demo. Is this something they could do today very simply and it would make a difference?
Yeah, actually, I'll do the demo myself. So, you get a chance. I would love to talk to the different users out there. And, if you're happy with your current reseller, that's great. We love people that are happy with their current reseller. But yeah, so the click tracker, I could do a demo personally. And the implementation fee, I don't know if I should share. Should I tell what it is?
Well, they need to call you.
Okay.
that's
It's
where
not
you
that
can get more
expensive. Yeah.
information. No,
It's not that
that's
expensive. It's also priced based on the size of the organization, because at the end of the day, the larger organizations are getting a lot more traffic, so it's a little bit more. But even for the larger clients, it's pretty affordable,
Yeah.
and it comes pre-built with lots of intelligence and dashboards, and it's just it's a great resource to really use. And really, the big push now is non-dues revenue, and you want to be able to sell premium non-dues revenue. If you could say, hey, guess what? We'll give you a portal where you can go in and you get the names and emails and addresses and interests and income levels and, of all the people that click your stuff in real time. You can go get it anytime you want, download it, see the dashboards. And, that makes it a lot easier to sell, So it's really, at the end of the day, the clients that are using it, it's making them way more money than they're spending for it. Yeah.
Yeah, the magnitude of value that this is offering, they need to call you to really understand the specifics. And when you say, the benefit this offers, then they can figure out how much it'll cost. But once you speak with Joe, you'll get all the details. So,
sure.
Well, talk about details today. Yes, we ran over time, but the information was way too good today to, for me to cut it off at 30 minutes. So sorry, everybody. And I will break it up in little snippets and little videos for you to take little pieces of information and process it. But we want to say thank you to everybody for tuning in. And if you were here for the first time, we hope you like the information and we want you to return. We have our next topic. It's called Mind the Gap, Closing Revenue Holes and Unlocking New Income Streams. Okay. And please send us even questions ahead of time if you have them so that we can address them. We also have guests who will be coming up in the next episodes. We will be back with that episode 5. And please follow us on social media. Obviously, we are streaming from YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook pages. Subscribe to those, follow us on those. We would love to keep you up to date. We go ahead and provide unbelievable information. We also have an incredible monthly newsletter with information that keep you up to date in the nonprofit industry, as well as inviting you to events that you may not be aware of. So we will see you next time, and we want to thank you
for
tuning in.
Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks, everybody.